excited because we have some information that we want to share with you. And we're trusting you, that wise person that is talked about in Proverbs, the person who wants information, the person that wants to learn, the person that wants knowledge, because it talks about a wise person seeketh knowledge and information. The fool hateth instruction. And so we want to thank you for just deciding that this dial is the place where you can gather some great information about life, about prosperity, about how to handle your money. And I'm so happy that I have on the line with me today Gerald B. Rogers, the face of the I Am network, and we're just so thankful for his coming to my office one day and sitting and sharing with me about how we can use our cash in a more profitable way and not be taken advantage of by those who would use our money and not pay us for using our money. And so we're thankful for that. Tasha M. Dyer is on with us. We call her the Trade Whisperer. Very informed young lady, very successful young lady. And then we are especially happy to have Dr. Bytewood on with us this afternoon. He's one of the few African-American men who have received a PhD in economics and finance from the University of Florida. And so we're just happy to have all of you on this evening. And we want to hear from you at this time. Just say something to our audience to let them know that you are here.
Well, awesome. I'm so excited to actually be here with you today, Bishop Rollison. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Tasha M. Dyer, the Trade Whisperer. And this movement, Be Your Own Bank, is just about 1 million families financially educated and impacted. We're really here just to share with you information that's been hidden in plain sight. You know, my background is U.S. Army Major retired. And when I retired, I actually became a licensed financial advisor. So for me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, we literally are here to help empower each and every last one of you all. We're here to share information with you all because this is what we didn't know. This is what is happening all around us, but yet it's some information that we didn't have, information that we didn't know. So I'm excited to actually be here with you all this evening. We have our visionary on the line, Mr. Gerald D. Rogers, and also Dr. Craig Bytewood. But I definitely want to turn this over and allow Mr. Rogers to introduce himself as well.
Well, thank you so much. 904, rejoice904.com. We are excited to have the opportunity to present this amazing information to so many individuals who are just completely unaware, and just tremendously grateful for the host, the very one and only Bishop Harold Rollison, and our colleagues, Ms. Tasha M. Dyer. And we're just excited, specifically for a day like today, when people are just completely unaware on how financial markets operate. And we have the privilege and the honor to be able to assist individuals and to help them understand how to be their own bank, and bring this information into a dynamic which is simply amazing and understanding. So kudos to each and every one of you. And at this point, I definitely am excited to have, as Bishop Rollison has already alluded, our special guest. And I definitely want you guys to get an opportunity to experience, absorb one of the most phenomenal minds when it comes to financial matters in the entire universe. So definitely want to make sure that we give him the opportunity to have as much longitude as he needs. So at this point, I'm going to yield to my dear friend, the one and only finance doctor himself, Dr. Craig Bytewood. Can you greet our audience?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers, for affording me this opportunity. So Bishop Rollison, Ms. Dyer, and the production staff of Rejoice 904, I'm so excited to be a part of this radio broadcast. So I need everyone in our listening audience to understand why you can literally feel the excitement in my voice. You see, this is full circle for me, because when I was 26 years old, 26 years ago, I studied bank mergers and acquisitions in my dissertation. Then I've had the opportunity to be a consultant for banks multiple times. So literally my entire adult life, I have been around banks. So now to be blessed enough to have the opportunity to, with my two business partners, Ms. Tasha Dyer and Mr. Gerald Rogers, be able to be a part of a movement that we call, let me be accurate, to be part of a ministry that we call the Be Your Own Bank movement, it is absolutely full circle for me. And see, the thing about it is this. I always say that before now, the only thing I could ever offer anyone I came in contact with was information. But now I get goosebumps every time I talk about this, because now I can put in individuals' hands a vehicle. Here's how you can take the information that I've been telling you for the last however many years, and you can actionize it. You can actually put yourself in a position where you can bring your family to another level of wealth and abundance. You can literally push through any resistances that you may have with your mindset and literally allow yourself to deserve and receive all of the blessings that God has promised you. Pressed down. You know how it goes. So the bottom line is this. I get excited every time we have an opportunity to come together, because now I can provide a vehicle in addition to the information, in addition to the mindset training, so we can be the best that we can be. And here's the part I like most about it. The skill set that we're teaching, once we teach this skill, it's there. It belongs to them forever. And if they want to teach this skill to their children, and those children want to teach the skill to their children, we have just changed the world. We have just put ourselves in a position where generational wealth can be established by us exposing this information to one family. And again, there's nothing new about this. This is something that has been on our financial market landscape forever. But that is the reason why we named our book Hidden in Plain Sight, because it's always been around, but now we're excited to be able to expose this information to every single family in the world so that they can have the option, they can have the opportunity to create generational wealth. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Bytewood. Now, before we get into deep, here's what I want us to do. Those of you who are on Facebook, I want you to share. We want to build our audience, as this is our second program. And we want all of us are going to be pushing this to our friends, because those that you love, those that you care about, you want them to hear this information that about what's hidden in plain sight. Remember, some folk look and some folks see, and we're excited to stop us from being looky-loos and begin to see what's going on around us and be aware. Now, I'm excited about what Dr. Bytewood just said a moment ago about something that's lasting, something that we can hold on to. Because when we ended our program last week, we talked about having the right mindset, and I shared with everybody about a large amount of money that I had in a trust fund that in 2007 and 2008, I did not receive any interest on whatsoever. Matter of fact, it cost me money because I had to pay the brokers to manage the fund. And Dr. Bytewood shared with me last week that he had some information that would be exciting for us, so that when we build wealth that way, we'll be able to actually pass it on. And this information that we're sharing today is information that once you learn the skill set, if someone sues you, you still can walk out of that room with your information and the skill that you've been given through listening to us today. And so let me share just a little bit about me and how we were able to accumulate $900,000 and have it in a trust fund. Now, a friend of mine and I started a business back in the 90s. It was a transportation company. We started with some beepers, a Jeep Cherokee, and a Geo Metro. And 10 years later, we had 60 vans, 106 employees, and $11 million annual budget. And because of that, we were able to accumulate quite a bit of funding. Later on, because of we talked about being around the right people, because we were around the right people, I had guys come by my office one day and say, you want this business opportunity? And so I looked at it and I said, well, let me look at the financials and then we'll talk to you about it later. I looked at the financials. I saw all the money where the money was hidden, because most of the time when people are doing business, they're hiding their profits. And so when we saw where the money was, we said, sure, we'll take that business. And this business was a cemetery. My first week in that cemetery, I made $33,000 cash. And along with that business came a trust fund that was valued, that had $960,000 in it. That was a maintenance trust fund. That fund, I did not pick that particular company to manage the money. It was that's where the money was when I bought the business. Now, 2006, 2007, the economy fell to pieces, and nobody was getting interest on anything. And we were not able to get the money that we got from the trust fund to do the maintenance on the cemetery. We paid for machinery, we paid for lawnmowers, we paid people to actually cut the grass and keep the cemetery up out of that particular fund. And so now you're not getting anything out of that fund. So now you got to find other places to replace that money so that you continue to pay your staff and make the payments on your equipment. And so that became very frustrating to me, because now I'm having to spend my profits. And so I called the people and I asked them, I said, now, can you put this money in a different type of account? How can I make this money make more money? You're just gonna have to hold on, Reverend. We're gonna do some things, but right now, you're just gonna have to bite the bullet like everybody else. I said, no, I did some research. There's some other types of accounts that we possibly could shift this money. They said, well, if you shift the money, and I got upset. I said, well, what about if I just take all my money from you guys and find another management company? Well, you can take it, but it's gonna cost you $60,000. Now, whose money is this? They were going to charge me $60,000 to withdraw my money. And we want to talk to Dr. Byfoot, the finance doctor, to tell me, see, everybody needs coaching. Even though I've taken several companies and turned them into $1 million companies, I need coaching. And we must be coachable. And so I'm asking Dr. Byfoot to coach me, because the next time I make this kind of money, because once you make it, you can make it again and again, because you learn what's hidden in plain sight. And so this is a vehicle to recover much of that which the devil has taken from me. And so I'm excited about the relationship that God has brought together for me to get to know him, to get to know Mr. Rogers, to get to know Ms. Dyer. These are people that God put around you with more information than you have, so that you can learn from them. You always want to surround yourself with people who know more than you know about something. When you find out you're the only person in the room with information, you're in the wrong room. You need to find another room. Dr. Byfoot, you want to make some comments on that scenario I just laid out there?
I certainly do, Bishop. First of all, let me just let you know that if I knew you at that time, I would have given you a hug, of course, with the man tap on the back. But sorry that you had to experience that.
I needed a hug.
I certainly can imagine. So
at the time, my wife had just died. So I didn't have anybody to hug.
Oh, wow. Really sorry that you went through both of those experiences.
Yeah.
So let's try to talk about some things so that as you have your next experience, it will be much better. So first of all, we need to understand that this is a gospel radio station. So we understand the power of walking in love. We understand the power of walking in the release. So we need to first understand that vengeance is the Lord's and not ours. So we need to kind of understand this point. This is what banks do. This is how banks operate. And so someone asked me this morning, Bishop Robertson, well, I don't understand why people are doing this. I need you to help me understand. And my response to that person was, once I help you to understand, Is that going to help you in any way? Is that going to allow you to accumulate more wealth? Is that going to allow you to bring any value into your household? So sometimes we have to understand the way the process works and then emotionally disconnect from that so that we can have better experiences. So we purposely call the BYOB movement the Be Your Own Bank movement because we want to be our own bank. Because we understand that what is it to be a bank? What is it that banks really do? What banks really do is they control economic infrastructure. And that is a perfect example. You're going to have to pay me to move your money. I'm sorry, you're going to have to keep that check here for 7 to 10 business days for it to clear. Okay, we need a deposit, but after we take the deposit, it'll take you 3 to 5 business days to get it back. And we know what they're doing in those 7 to 10 days. We know what they're doing in those 3 to 5 days. So it's okay. We're okay with the fact that banks are doing what they're doing. We just want to understand, first of all, that we are not anti-bank. We're pro-household. Because what you resist will persist. If we spend any energy against the banking system, against the situation, then we will literally send a message to the universe that says, hey, send me more experiences like that. So the first thing we want to do with a story like that is give the virtual man hug and let it go. So here's how we are going to approach this the next time something like this happens. So we want to first understand that there are 2 types of financial markets. First of all, what is a financial market? A financial market is any market that is opposite of a product market. There's no physical product. There's no manufacturing. There's nothing tangible. We're talking about buying and selling money. So anytime there is a financial market, there are essentially only 2 types of financial market. There's either a long-term market or a short-term market. What are you going to do today? Okay, what are you going to do 10 years from now? 2 totally different questions. There's a long-term market and there's a short-term market. So when we put ourselves in a position where we understand those 2 markets, now let's put some labels on them. The long-term market is capital market. The short-term market is money market. Capital market, long-term. Money market, short-term. So what has happened is that we have been convinced, we have been told by banks that this is the way you do it. And like I say, every single time I do my talk with the finance doctor on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 10 p.m., I always say this: personal finance is the only area of our society where the individuals who sell us the products happen to be the same individuals that give us information about the product. So it's slanted. They're incentivized to tell us what's going to benefit their organization rather than you. So of course they told you that it will cost you $60,000 because that will put you in a position to leave the money there and allow them not to pay you the interest. Now, as I get to this answer and breaking down capital market and money market, something comes to my mind. We're very benevolent about sharing this information with people. And one of the things that we ask when we talk about, when we present this information to people, is we always ask the question, how much has your bank paid you in the last 20 years? And I find it interesting that 75% of the people that I ask that question to, they laugh. They laugh. It's comical to them that I'm even asking it. It's funny. It's a joke. But given my academic history, I've taught a bank management class probably 15 times. And chapter 3 of bank management explains that we are supposed to be paid by the bank. Or looked at a different way, banks are supposed to pay depositors for the funds. So that's the way it's supposed to be. However, that's not the way it is. Dr. B, help me to understand. No, Dr. B, help you to let that go, release that, and let's come up with a new plan. So now that we understand that there's capital market and there's money market, what's the capital market? Very simple. The markets that we hear about all the time, stocks and bonds. Stocks and bonds have long-term maturities. Buy and hold, 20-year maturity, 30-year maturity. I talked to someone recently and I was explaining to them the way in which we profit daily on Tesla. And he said, oh, well, I have Tesla. I bought it and it's up 300%. Oh, yeah? How long have you had Tesla? 3 years. So we want to put a vehicle in people's hands where you don't have to wait 3 years. You can do it in 3 minutes. So now that we understand that capital market is long-term and money market is short-term, let's think about some of those products. Because banks will have you believe that the only way in which you can put your money into an account is through them. We're the ones that have all the accounts. We're Walmart. We're one-stop shopping. We have everything. True, but we always have the ability to drive right past Walmart and go to Target, or keep driving past Target and go to Macy's, or go to Nordstrom's. We always have the choice to go whatever store we want to. We just need to understand what the financial stores are and what products are housed in them. So let me break it down. Banks themselves have products, and they have what is called a checking account. We know that, but they also have savings accounts. Well, the savings accounts are placed in such a way, the infrastructure of them are placed where A, there's a very small amount of interest that's paid, and 2, they actually have allowed the federal government to pass a law where there's only a minimum amount of time you can touch your savings account per month. Let's just think about that for a second. You can take money in and out of your checking account on an unlimited basis. That's because I don't pay you. But if you put your money in the savings account, you can only take it out 3 times a month. That's because I'm paying you. So to get a higher rate, if you're interested in receiving a higher interest rate, then you go to their next tier product, which is the money market account. The money market account. Now here's how the game works on that one. You can receive higher interest on our money market account, but you have to have a minimum balance that stays in the account at all times. In some banks, it's as high as $100,000. So you give me $100,000 and I'll pay you a little bit of interest. But hey, don't go to $999 because now I'm going to charge you a fee for going below the minimum bank payment. So we believe that that is the store. That is the only place we can go to get banking products, but there are other places. So here's how I want you to think about this. I'm going to give you 2 options. Option 1 is this. I oftentimes talk about the fact that banks are for profit and credit unions or small banks or local banks, they are nonprofit. Now, if you just think about this for a second, real quick, let me give you a quick accounting lesson. The income statement is income minus expenses, revenue minus expenditures, inflows minus outflows. That's so easy. Money coming in versus money going out. Don't believe that accounting is easy. I just taught it to you in 30 seconds. Money coming in, money going out. That's your P&L. That's your profit and loss. Money coming in, money going out. Stay with me. Money coming in, money going out. Now, here's how this works. If big banks are for profit and little banks are nonprofit, and profit is the difference between inflows and outflows. Income minus expenses, profit. Profit is simply money coming in minus money going out. So if for-profits are big banks and nonprofits are credit unions, that must mean that big banks have more profit than little banks. Stay with me. Now watch this. When you look at the profit model of a financial institution, Bishop, wouldn't you agree with this? The money that they make is simply this. The revenue is the money that we pay them.
That's right.
The expense is the money that they pay us. Let me do that again. The revenue is the money that we pay them.
Right.
The expense is the money that they pay us. So if big banks have more profit than little banks, doesn't that mean that little banks must always charge us less and pay us more? So when you look at it like that, right away, we go with that name recognition. It's the Wells Fargo, it's the Bank of America, it's all of those names. But those names are designed to pay you less and charge you more. So one of the things that we can do is we can find smaller banks that will pay more simply because their profit, their difference, their profit model is different. Now let's go beyond that and look at this. We oftentimes talk about, Bishop, that people who are relying on retirement plans have been let down. There have been 38% on average. Think about that, on average. That means some of them are higher. 38% decline in retirement plans. Now I want you to think about this, listening audience. retirement plans, when they're going up, average 11% a year. Let me say it again. Retirement plans, when they're going up, they average 11% a year. With the vehicle that we're working with Gerald D. Rogers being the representative of the most popular software in our company, with Miss Tasha M. Dyer inventing a strategy that is the easiest strategy that we have for a company that's in 122 countries, we are making 3% a trade. Let me do that again. Retirement plans, 11% a year. Our trades are a minimum of 3% a trade. So if you just think about the logic there, we're putting you in a position where this can be the difference between what you can do and what you will do. So back to the point, when you label the capital market versus the money market, and you think about these retirement plans that we've all been exposed to, how do they function? They function by investing in mutual funds. So mutual funds have labels. What is a mutual fund? It's simply a portfolio manager making a decision to take the money of the individuals that are involved in the fund, putting together all of the money, mutual, and then investing it in whatever particular item or what particular category fits into the capital market. Well, here's the deal. He said earlier there are two markets, capital market, money market. Well, the money market represents short term. So if you find a money market mutual fund, it is a mutual fund that invests in short-term instruments. If you invest in a checking account, you're getting 0 interest. If you invest in a savings account, you're getting a very small amount of interest. If you invest in a money market, you're getting a little bit more interest, however, you have that minimum balance. Now, I said all of that just to make up this setup point before I bring it home, Bishop Robertson.
Okay.
The number one invested money market vehicle in America, the number one is a CD, a certificate of deposit. More people put money into CDs than any other vehicle. Now, watch this. When you invest in a CD, you have to invest it for a certain time. So if you invest in a 90-day CD, you have to keep your money there for 90 days. If you invest in a 1-year CD, you have to keep your money there for a year. If you invest in a 3-year CDs, yes, there are 3-year CDs, you have to keep your money there for 3 years. Now watch this. Didn't we just say, Bishop, that small banks and credit unions pay more and charge less? So if you invest in a CD of a big bank, you're keeping your money locked up for a particular amount of time, but yet you're getting less. Now watch this. Money market mutual funds invest in many money market investments. Guess what one of the money market investments is? A CD. But when can you take your money out of a money market mutual fund? Anytime you want. So you can get the same exact returns in a money market account, in a money market mutual fund than you can by investing in a CD, but you can get more because the mutual fund manager is diversifying across different types of CDs and different types of money market mutual funds, and you have the flexibility to be able to take your money out anytime you want. Hidden in plain sight. Thank you for asking that question, Bishop Robertson. Did I answer it?
Oh yeah, you more than answered it. Just you brought up another question in my mind when you started talking about mutual funds. You know, we got the no load, and you got the where you pay when you first buy the mutual fund, and then you got the one where with the load, and then the no load where you pay on the backside. Which one would those be better?
So I am blessed enough to been able to coach my daughters in girls basketball for a number of years. And the lowest grade I've ever taught is 5th grade. When I coach 5th grade, I always teach them something called triple threat, which means anytime they have the ball, they have the ability to do one of 3 things. They can either shoot, dribble, or pass, but the defense doesn't know what you're doing. You got to be ready, 5th grader. Well, I think that's a good analogy, Bishop, for my professional life, because I have been a professor, So I see the academic side, I've been a consultant, so I see the bird's eye view, and I've been a chief financial officer multiple times, so I've been inside the belly of the beast, seeing the way it works. So with this three-pronged approach,
Amen.
I've had the
Amen.
ability to be able to see things, but also to be able to have access to research. So over the past 40 years, research on mutual funds shows that load funds, meaning that there's a fee, versus no load funds, which means there is not a fee, have the same exact performance. So understand this. Let me make sure that we are clear here. You're going to pay a fee on a mutual fund regardless. Think of it like this. You know, mutual funds pay you in what are called net asset value or shares. So let's think about it like pizza. If we all order pizza, everybody's going to get their serving as a slice. They get it per slice. Well, what if we bought a whole bunch of pizzas and then we only gave people 4 boxes and we kept 2 of the boxes in our car? That's what mutual funds do. That's the fee. They tell you you have a net asset value, but they take their fee out, leave their fee in the car before they deliver you your financial pizza. So that has nothing to do with the load. That's just the fees. So the difference between a no load and a load is that there's a fee on top of the pizza boxes you're taking from me. So the performance of load funds versus no load funds are exactly the same over the last 40 years. So as a result of that, no reason to ever invest in a no load fund. I'm sorry, to invest in a load fund. Never a reason to invest in a load fund. Great question, Bishop.
Yes, sir. Now we want to talk about revocable and irrevocable trust, because many of us who are deciding to trade are going to have so much money that we want to make sure that when we set up our wills and whatnot, some of us would choose to get trust, you know, to avoid the courts of deciding who gets what.
Correct.
So can you talk about the irrevocable and the revocable trust?
Certainly
and how
can.
they work in the investor company?
Certainly can. And let me begin by giving a
Okay.
little bit of a backdrop so our audience understands why this is such an important question. So if you have anything that belongs, first of all, let's back up even further. When you're alive, it's called an asset. When you're deceased, it's called an estate. They're the exact same thing, just one when you're alive, one is when you pass on. So it makes sense for us to get into the habit of being able to manage these things now rather than waiting until something happens. And if I can just be real with you, this has not been something that has been paramount in our community. So we want to understand how important this question is. Now, what happens is this. If you have any assets that you do not specifically decide what is going to happen with, then that is called intestate. And that means that the probate courts of the state now has the flexibility to be able to decide. And there's some states, like the state of Georgia, where probate is the #1 source of revenue for the state government. So you want to understand that, and you want to understand how important this question is. So let me go further. A will says, this is what I want to happen. And in order for it to happen, there has to be somebody who makes it happen, and that's the executor of your will. But what a trust does is it gives you more power, because the trust now allows you to specifically say, this is not only what I want to happen, but here's how it's going to happen. And there's also a third-party person who's running the trust who's going to make sure that all of those things happen. Now, revocable simply means that if there are any changes, you have the ability to be able to change it. Irrevocable means once you do it, it has to stay exactly the way it is. Now, institutions are set up in a way to make money, and that's okay. We're okay with that. The way in which trusts operate is this. If you have the right to change it, they think that that's more management on their term, therefore you have to pay a little bit more for revocable. But I have seen time after time after time as a financial planner, Bishop, where individuals will make a decision, make it irrevocable because it's cheaper, and then something happens. There's a change. Change is the only thing that is constant. So I always recommend that you pay a little bit extra and do and do revocable. So you have the ability to be able to respond if there's some type of change. And think about it, change is not always in the individuals. Change could be in the society, change could be in the way things happen, change could be in the way institutions do things. There are rules and laws that are decided on a monthly, seasonal, quarterly basis. So it's always best to make it be revocable so you have that flexibility in the event of macroeconomic or individual change.
Hey, man. Now, the way it was explained to me, because I think it's important, because I found myself walking around with a master's degree and nobody ever taught me anything about trust. And then when I bought this business, I bought a $960,000 trust that I had to supervise the managers. And I didn't know anything about revocable or irrevocable. And so the revocable was explained to me as like a bucket. You can reach in the bucket and get what you need out of the bucket. And that the revocable was better as far as probate was concerned, because it had beneficiaries. And one of the beneficiaries could be a irrevocable trust that you could automatically send a certain amount of what you had in the irrevocable trust to a position where you could control from the grave what happens with the trust. And so you know, the revocable is certainly a good vehicle to get some things done with a limited amount of control, with the option of making some corrective actions if something unexpected happens. And so I appreciate that answer, Dr. Bytewood. I think it's going to help a lot of people, because some of us, I believe, are going to make a lot of money.
Yes.
Mr. Dyer, are you there?
I'm sorry.
Absolutely, I'm here.
Okay. Now, you've been involved with helping people determine their retirement projections. And now that, you know, a lot of folk I know are looking at 401ks, and the economy has, like in 2007, 8, and 9, nobody got anything on the interest on those 401ks. And some of that money was in mutual funds. Some of it was probably in a lot of different other things. And the people's projections are thrown off because we had 2 or 3 recessions in the last 20 years. So how has that impacted those 401ks that people have, and they thought they would have X amount of money, and X turned out to be Y?
Well, Bishop, it's an eye opener. It's a shock. It's a reality check. And I mean, I think Dr. Bytewood, you know, summed it up pretty well as he was speaking. But I've heard many stories. I've seen many individuals that actually are not able to retire the way that they thought they were. I've seen so many individuals that are back at work or have to have shifted their lives. You know, one thing we really have to understand is that retirement is a financial status and it's not an age. And so the biggest thing too, when you place your money into these accounts, we think it's ours because we're looking at, you know, we're looking at a actual statement. We're looking at, you know, these things, but it's still subject to the market. That's that piece that's missing. That's that piece that's always left out, is the fact that it's still subject to the market. We've been conditioned to think that we have to buy it, we hold it, and we pray over it. And so the flexibility, you know, the fluctuation that consistently happens is definitely something that we have to consider. And so even myself, you know, when I went back and I looked at my study material for getting licensed, you know, one of the things that I realized is that everything that we're involved in right now, as far as the foreign exchange market, understanding the market, the big picture, this is in the study material. Is that even when you're getting licensed, you're still subject, or you're still learning, you're still focused on what you're going to accomplish through that broker, because you can't get licensed unless you're attached to a broker. So your education is always tailored toward what they want and the benefit of that company. And so we have to understand that, you know, this is why we see so many individuals around. And even before COVID, even before all the things that's transpired right now, you have many people that can't retire the way they thought they can. You have many people that are looking at their retirement funds and their retirement accounts and they have to work a few more years, or it's so much more that has to happen. And one of the things that we have to understand is that we want to control the narrative. You want to be in a position where you control the narrative, and you look at the amount of liquidity, what you have to put up each month just to retire properly, or to retire where you're quote unquote comfortable, is ridiculous, when you can literally learn a skill set to literally take you and help you understand the magnitude of what's really out there. It's $6.6 trillion a day moving. It's no way. I mean, think about it for a minute. Whose bright idea was it to say, give me your money and I'm gonna hold on to it for 40 years. I'm gonna hold on to it for 20 years. I'm gonna hold it and you can't touch it. And yet it's still subject to the market. Where did that come from? And so the more you learn, the more you know, it's always important to understand that you want to control the narrative. You want to control your future.
Exactly. Mr. Rogers, you've been out here as an investment banker. Have you seen many vehicles that have been really good for the consumer?
Well, I definitely yield to the same thought process as Dr. Bythewood and Ms. Dyer. I am, after being trained professionally in this area, I am tremendously of the opinion now that it's more apropos for us to make sure and ensure that people that we're connected to have this information to educate themselves. Because I'm always looking at it from a holistic standpoint. And I think of the decline of individuals' retirement accounts. Individuals now have the unfortunate luxury to have to extend their working years because obviously things like Social Security and things of that nature will completely be defunded. So this has to be a very important part of our daily functionality. And the reality is, why haven't we been taught this information? And I want to even take it a step further. Even from a community church perspective, the body of Christ, and even in the African American community, there are numerous scriptures that teach us that we should be the lender and not the borrower, that we should be able to fund everything that pertains to ensuring that our communities are in need, our parishioners. But we have to take the positive position and just take a note from, in my opinion, the first global economist, King Solomon, Ecclesiastes 11:1, where he instructed us that in order for us to reap the rewards, we need to invest in foreign trade. And particularly here in the United States, you know, we've been most familiar with the stock market, which only allows the person to participate at about a $40 billion a day, but the whole gamut, $6.6 trillion. And because of the new wave of money and digital currency, that affords us, the average individual, the opportunity to tap into a nearly $11 trillion a day industry. So the writer Paul says, study to show yourself approved. And I think it's our responsibility. And I'm so excited and thankful that you have a heart not only to spiritually edify individuals, but to give them tools necessary in the natural as a leading ministry leader, as a consummate businessman, to now understand the importance of this information, and as being able to put this information in the hands of the people so that the people can now live as well as the leadership in which they sit up under. So I salute you, and that's why I'm tremendously humbled and grateful that you are a part of this movement and a voice that's clarion as a general to bring in alignment many senior pastor leaders and things of that nature.
Well, I appreciate that so very much. And you use a passage that I think you and I may have talked about a little while ago when we were traveling together. We talked about the Deuteronomy where we said, be the lender, not the borrower. That's a powerful passage. That being the lender, not the borrower, you can take over countries. have a Jewish lawyer friend who has a law firm in Manhattan, and he shared with me. He said now the real problem in Germany was that the Jews that moved to Germany, they couldn't own any property, but they owned all the financial institutions. And Hitler was angry because they controlled the banks, they controlled all the insurance companies, and they controlled the money. And Hitler had this thing that we hear around here a lot. He wanted his country back. And the only way he could get his country back was to get rid of the Jews. And so they became the lenders and not the borrowers in Germany and took over the country. And that was a whole problem. That's what I see what's happening to America now, because we have foreign countries who are controlling our financial situation. China's not the virus. There's a virus in the bank, and they're owning most of the stocks at the stock market. And so, you know, we really don't have financial control of our country right now, because somebody else has become the lender and we become the borrower. And so when we talk about trading, we really gain control of our own finances. And that's so very important in our community, because it's so important that even when we put our money in the bank, we can't go down there and get a loan to start a business. We can get a loan to get a Cadillac or a Lincoln, but we can't get a loan to start a business. We can get $100,000 car, but we can get $25,000 as a loan to help our business move forward. And so they control what happens in our community economically, even though we let them hold our money. So what's the solution to that, Dr. Bikewood?
That's an easy one. The solution is to be your own bank.
Amen.
So if you think about what we're doing, and you think about the families that we're impacting, what if we came together as a collective and began to have a remix of the entire financial industry? We provided capital to communities and infrastructures that have been underserved. So we would literally be doing the reverse of what you just said, but doing it out of love instead of taking back power.
Amen. 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 Because we don't want our children to struggle, because we're teaching them to be entrepreneurs. We're teaching them that if you go to college, go and get a skill and not just a piece of paper. We're teaching them to read The Miseducation of the Negro, where E.B. Du Bois talked about that back in the 30s, that blacks were going to school learning to manage companies that nobody would hire them to manage them. And the Jews at the same time were studying Negro and setting up corner stores and getting rich, because they knew what we would buy. They knew we wanted some pickles. We knew we wanted to be able to cash our check. They knew we wanted to malt liquor. They knew that, and they put everything in our community that they thought we would come in there and buy. And guess what? It's the same way today. I go to some communities and you can't get a bottle of water, but you can get you can get those malt liquors and pickles and pig feet and all that kind of stuff, because they think they've studied us, and it's moved on past the Jews to the other foreigners who have come from other countries who have studied us, and they have what we want. That they have the rolling paper there for us, all the stuff that perpetuate our sickness and our demise. And we have to be smarter than that. You can't buy a fresh vegetable in our community.
Well, and Bishop.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was just going to jump in, because change begins with us. And so regardless of what someone else is doing, regardless of what's transpiring outside, regardless of what's going on, change always is an inside out job. All of this is definitely an inside out job. And so when we bring this back to us and you focus on you, regardless of what else is happening in the world, you know, when you're not a minority, we're not any of that. And so if we focus on us, because think about it, we mentioned college, we mentioned skill sets. The reality is we'll go to college, but we have the goal is college. This is where the mindset shift has to happen. The goal is college. And when I was on active duty, one of the things that I did is speak in every high school here in Jacksonville. And so what actually transpired is when you talk to the children, when you talk to the kids that are our future, the goal is college. And so in the military, one of the things we learned is backwards planning. Like you have a plan, you have a goal, you have a destination, and then you have backwards planning. And you plan from there. So it's always about, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? My daughter wants to be a doctor. So what is it going to take for you to get to that skill path? Your goal is not college. You know, we get so excited about going to college, and college is a business. But if it's on your path to where you want to go, absolutely you need to go there. But we have to understand that we have the power inside of us. We have the power to do every single thing that we want to accomplish. We have the power to be in whatever it is. It's just that we have to have the goal set to actually go do it, and the mindset. And so whatever it is that you want, you need to be able to reel it back and understand exactly what it is that I desire. What am I going to accomplish, and what is it going to take for me to get there? Because nobody can control your narrative. Nobody can control your outcome. And just like right now, we're learning a skill set. Because with our background, myself, Mr. Rogers, Dr. Bytewood, with our background, we don't have to talk to a soul. We could have literally just kept this to ourselves and just traded and learned it, you know. However, 1 million families financially educated and impacted, and that's why we're so adamant about the world knowing what this is. This is why we're so adamant about everyone understanding what's available and what's out there. And that's because this information, it's about the education, and it begins with the education. It's really important, but it's always about what you're being educated upon. So we don't sit back and wait on someone to give out. Personally, it's irrelevant what someone else is doing. It's irrelevant what someone else is trying to stop me from doing. When we band together and we understand the power that we have in our own hands, the power of our mindset, the power of a skill set, it is nothing that we can't accomplish. And this is how we shifted, one family at a time, within our communities, within our households, within our friends, neighbors, relatives. That's why this is so important. And so that takes that focus and that shift off of what's on the outside, and we focus it back to us as far as what's on the inside.
That's right.
Bishop
That's
Robinson,
right. Yes. Go ahead.
May I please add to what Ms. Dyer said? First of all, Ms. Dyer, I thought that was a wonderful take. And when Ms. Dyer is doing her trainings, she is looking at a chart. And what she'll do is she'll look at what happened in the past so that she can figure out what's going to happen next. And she'll say, you look left, you look left. So look left is the trading trainer's way of looking back in the past. Well, sometimes we have to recognize that we look left too much. And see, back to my basketball prowess as a coach, one of the things I teach those fifth graders is when they first come, they want to pick up the ball and run. They want to travel. So to teach them not to travel, I teach them something called pivot. Hey, take that foot, plant it in the ground, and change direction. So sometimes we have to recognize that when we talk about these things by looking left, we just have to put our financial foot in the ground, and we just have to pivot. So let's spend less and less time looking left and more time focusing on what we want, and we will get there so much quicker.
Amen, Dr. B.
Amen. That's so true. I think that what our kids need, and some even adults, old people need, is we need a skill. We need a skill set so we can rely on that skill set and not rely on somebody employing us.
That's true. That's true. But even when they were going to college, it's like, what is your goal? That's why the attrition is so high. It's like, I got to school, now what? I'm here, now what? So
well, see, most of the time they just got a degree, and that degree says somebody's gonna hire you, and that's not true for every case. And they don't really have a skill set. They have what do you call it? A liberal arts degree that it's just a piece of paper and no skill.
College.
And that's what Dr. The miseducation of the Negro is all about. You thought you were getting something when you didn't get anything. All you got is a bill. You got student loan coming out of the yin yang, and you don't, and your credit is ruined from day one before you get out of college, because now you got this big $40,000-$50,000 bill, no job to pay it. They give you 6 months. You get the extension, and now they have all these marks on their credit. When you're in college, they give you these credit cards that come in the mailbox, and they give credit cards to kids who don't have no way of paying it back. And they're so happy to have those credit cards because they don't have parents who send them money on a regular, but they got this card in their pocket. They want to go out and have fun like the rest of the kids. And they run those cards up to the max. And when they graduate, they got the credit cards companies calling them. They don't have an opportunity to use the credit properly, so that they can advance their business, their career, their situation. And it's just a downward spiral.
Well, this is where Dr. B just said we got to stop looking left. And what do we do about it? We know what transpired. We know what happened. We understand. So how do I reposition myself? How do I pivot? Stop just going to quote unquote college. Go to college with an objective. Go to school with a goal. Educate our children. Treat them like an investment. No more 1830 rule. What does that mean? At 18, you got 30 days to get out. Treat your children as an investment. We have to, this is where the inside out job comes in. This is where that shift happens. Empower them with, just like what we're doing right now. My children are empowered with a skill set. Dr. B's children, I know Mr. Rogers' children are empowered with a skill set. My son trades, his daughters are trading. You know, when you look at what's transpiring, this is where that shift happens. My 6-year-old daughter understands the charts. So we have to be, us, instead of always looking out at what someone else is doing, we can make that shift. If you want to go to school, what are you going for? Not just the goal is college, right? What do you want? And this is where we take responsibility into our own hands, and we can make that internal shift. I know Mr. Rogers, I think I cut him off. Mr. Rogers?
Well, I guess at the end of the day, I think we're all congruent on we solution. So, but I do have a question for all of us. I know we're getting ready to close out, but in historical, this is the rejoice904.com network, you know, a spiritually ed foundation. I have a question for all of us. You know, many of us are in ministry leaders. At what point is it the place from a ministry standpoint to also not only be concerned about one's spiritual well-being, but understanding things of this nature? And in my opinion, and has it been difficult for us to help leaders of leaders understand that this is equally important, this information and this level of education is how we solidify our local congregations as well as our local communities?
One of the things that I think about and operate in all the time, Mr. Rogers, is that when I'm benevolently sharing information with people, I look at it as I want to bring a thirsty person closer to the water. But there's literally nothing I can do about someone who chooses not to be thirsty. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that there's a responsibility for the leaders of leaders to operate in a certain way and make certain things a priority. But I think we're freer to impact more families when we release the need to have to judge or have opinions about what they're doing. Observation is strength. Judgment is weakness. So what I choose to do in this scenario is to only focus on those who are thirsty. And eventually we'll raise the vibration, and then all those others will have to match what we're doing.
Wow. Well, we're just thankful to God for that question. And I think that as ministry leaders, we have to, our minds have to be renewed also, and see people differently. Don't see the people as an opportunity to rape and pillage and make our pockets fat, and we can get a better car, better this. But the idea of bringing them up, and because in business, when I do business I say to my business partners that no deal is a good deal unless everybody's prospering. And so it's important that everybody prosper, even in ministry. There's something wrong if the only one that's doing well in the church is the pastor. Something wrong about that.
Well, that's and I know right now is where we are because we're about to end. I just want to, you just mentioned something about, you know, about what can we do to empower, you know, and that's, like I said, that's the purpose. And so what you see me sharing right now is actually the book cover. So this is the book, and that actually is going to be released next week, that you can get your pre-orders at BeYourOwnBankMovement.com. So this is literally what we're able to do. So our whole goal and focus is to literally be able to share this information, to make sure that we empower, and the 1 million families financially educated and impacted, that 1 million families literally begins with one family. It begins with you. And so, you know, just like tonight, what we have is what we call BYOB Market Talks. And that's definitely, you know, BYOB Market Talks, and that'll, you know, on Zoom, where we're helping you understand how to navigate. And of course, that's followed by a talk with the finance doctor. So myself and Dr. Bytewood are here and dedicated with this movement with the visionary himself, Mr. Rogers. And that is what we're doing. This is where that shift happens. You know, this is where it begins. So somebody has to step up and say, you know what, we're willing to be that change agent. And that's what Be Your Own Bank movement is all about. It's about being that change agent. It's about making sure that we empower the families and empower so we can be that shift and that pivotal, you know, that pivotal shift in what's important in each and every community. So with that, I mean, I just wanted to kind of highlight that as we close out this broadcast.
Thank you, Ms. Dyer. Is it time for us to close? I think it is. And we certainly are thankful for everybody who tuned in to listen and share with us. And we want you to know, as you listen to the show, you can always type something in, a question in, because we want to address questions that you have, concerns that you have, so that we can really be on target with how we're trying to help. And so we're thankful. We thank God for Dr. Bytewood. He was a powerful inspiration, a powerful word, a strong word today. And we intend on having him as a regular part of our show. And as often as he can come and be on, we certainly want him to be here. We're thankful for Mr. Rogers. We're thankful for Ms. Dyer. And we say, God bless you and have a great evening.
Okay, we're clear. Okay, everyone, we're clear.
We're clear?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.